views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi guys, I'm M, also known as the Hungry Dominican, and I'm your host for Foodie Down Bronx, where we'll catch up with artists, entrepreneurs, and foodies who make up part of the incredible and ever-growing Bronx food scene. So if you like to eat, get your appetites ready and stay tuned. From BronxNet to the world, this is Foodie Down Bronx. Welcome to Foodie Down Bronx. Stay connected to us on Instagram at BronxNetTV and follow me at the Hungry Dominican. Today we'll talk to Omar Canales of Seis, Vecinos and fashion and food photographer Nikki Gomez about personal motivations, goals, social media, and of course, food. Before we meet Omar and Nikki, let's talk about something that is absolutely beneficial, something everyone needs, and that, my friends, is breakfast, the most important meal for a productive day. Back on June 1st, I decided to put myself on a 2-month challenge in which I would be eating a plant-based diet. If you head on over to my Instagram, you'll find the hashtag #MySoCalledVeganLife on my most current posts. I wasn't feeling my best when I started the challenge, and I knew that my eating habits overall had to change. One of the biggest changes I made, and the most important, was to start eating breakfast every single morning. When you spend most of your adult life having mostly coffee for breakfast, and then you start actually eating breakfast on a consistent basis, you really do start feeling the difference and understanding why it literally is the most important meal of the day. Now, no slander on my culture. I am the Hungry Dominican after all. But since I started my so-called vegan life, I've switched gears on my personal breakfast habits. Mangú con los tres golpes was an everyday thing, and yes, it is absolutely delicious. But if you guys try substituting every now and then something more hearty, and still delicious, by the way, like steel-cut oats, and I'll guarantee you'll feel more productive throughout the day. Even though, let's make sure to keep in mind that you can still have mangú on a vegan diet. You just have to make sure you use vegetable oil or vegan butter when preparing it. You can't really take an L if you start off your day with breakfast and a lot of energy. It's literally impossible to do so. Another benefit of breakfast is, of course, it curbs your appetite during the day, which can help you control overeating and help you make better choices about what food you decide to eat throughout the rest of the day. When I didn't find myself having too much time to eat in the morning, I would have anywhere from 1 to 2 cups of coffee, or basically for breakfast, or maybe a buttered roll. By the time that lunch came around, I'd be so hungry I wouldn't be able to think straight, so I would eat food just to feel full and not eat it based on how nutritious it was. It's like a form of hunger plus anger. You get caught up in your feelings and you just grab whatever looks hearty to you, even if it may not be the best thing for you. I'm sure you guys have felt this way. I'm sure you guys have. A lot of us have eaten some really questionable foods out of hunger and desperation. I'm completely guilty of it myself. Just recently I learned that 40% of millennials do not eat cereal because they don't even wash their bowls. I don't even know where to start with that. That sounds kind of crazy to me, a little bit lazy. You guys are missing out on something that's amazing, which is cereal. You have to stop this nonsense. The report does go on to say that the same 40% prefer yogurts and sandwiches as the mess is minimal. Kind of unreal to me, but okay, but at least they're eating their breakfast. Many people use the excuse of not having enough time to prepare themselves a meal, and that's why they don't have breakfast in the morning. So, what are your thoughts on breakfast? Do you guys make time in the morning to eat it? And if you do, are you a sandwich and yogurt type, or do you chef yourself up a full-fledged meal? Let us know on Instagram, BronxNetTV, or at the Hungry Dominican. All right, guys, grab yourself a snack. Foodie Down Bronx will be right back.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment. A moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, Goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments, kooky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count because every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, well, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Welcome back. Seis Vecinos is an authentic Central American and Mexican restaurant located in the heart of the South Bronx at 640 Prospect Avenue, serving bailadas, pupusas, fresh guacamole, and much, much more. It is where I met and befriended this young gentleman last spring. Why? Because he fed me. That's why. He was also part of my last year's Foodie Down Bronx that took place at the Port Morris Distillery, but also happens to be one of the smartest, most thoughtful people I've met on my Instagram journey, and a shrewd businessman to boot. Please welcome Omar Canales of Seis Vecinos. Omar.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, senor, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I hope I didn't butcher that up too much.
No, here.
My nerves got the best of me, but we're finally to the part that I wanted to get to, which was the interview part. I wanted to, first of all, I really want to thank you for being part of the show.
Oh, thanks.
This really means a lot that you're actually my first guest. Even before, we met last spring. You were part of the Foodie Down Bronx panel that I hosted with Rosanna at NYC Food Muse on Instagram at the Port Morris Distillery. Yes. And we spoke about this lightly, the idea that I wanted to have a platform where I could, have either a podcast or a show where I could bring on people from the Bronx food scene, talk to them about their journey in the BX on Instagram, business people like yourself. And I felt like even when I was telling you that I wanted to do this, maybe in the back of your head, you were like, this guy is like completely out of his mind. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he's not that, sincere about it. But flash forward to now and we're here. So I really want to thank you for being a part of this. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
I took to you very, very quickly because yes, you did feed me number one. The food was amazing. But I do find that you are one of the most sincere people that I've met off of Instagram. We've talked about this. I've met a lot of personalities off of Instagram, a lot of people who are very, they're in one lane about what they want to do, what they want to achieve, the goals they want to achieve. And I feel like a lot of people are looking for something that serves them, something that makes them the spotlight. The attention gets focused on them. And with you, I felt like you had one agenda, which was to put Seis Vecinos on the map, to really push what that restaurant is, what it represents, and not get in the way of it. And I have to compliment you on your feed, which is amazing. I've always said that you do a really good job of showing love to your customers, showing the amazing food that you have at the restaurant, which you've actually brought some here at the studio to show off a little bit, right?
Yes.
Actually, let's start with that. What did you bring from the restaurant before we get into our interview portion?
So in total, I brought 6 pupusas. I'll go through the pupusas first. 2 loroco and queso. Loroco being a Central American flower bud, and cheese pupusa. Bean and cheese pupusas, and chicharrón and cheese pupusas.
You brought that over here?
Yes.
You know I can't have that, right?
Not the chicharrón, yeah. But the other ones are the vegetarian options. We can have them without cheese to make them vegan options. There are gluten-free options as well that we offer at Seis Vecinos. I also brought 2 baleadas, which are consisted of eggs and avocado, the hard salty cheese, refried beans, wrapped up in a handmade flour tortilla. So once you bite into it, you have a very fluffy texture. Then another 2 baleadas, which have the same ingredients plus chorizo, which those are for those who like to completely indulge and maybe take a nice little nap after.
Right.
And we also brought some casamiento.
Yes.
Which at first glance
very good.
Seems like your classic rice and beans, which it is a very hearty staple rice and beans that we offer. But our recipe is a more Salvadoran, traditional Central American dish, keeping the whole Central American fare going. And it's just something that I welcome you also to try out and see why it's different than your more typical rice and bean.
It is. I have to say, I had never had that dish before until I went to Seis Vecinos. And on paper, it reads very similar to other dishes that I know, but the taste is like, it's unreal. It's very different from any type of like rice and beans or rice and peas dish I've had before. Really good stuff.
Yeah, it's different. The way the ingredients are all prepared. And we also brought some curtido, which you dress up the pupusas with. All we're talking about cabbage, jalapeno, carrots. We pickle them in-house every single day. All these ingredients take, if at the least 24 hours in advance to prepare.
Wow.
By essentially my family, who is essentially the one that runs the establishment. So
how long has Seis Vecinos been around?
The name and the restaurant has been around for the last 7 years. We started on 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, small location, no more than maybe 12 tables. Easily grew that out within 5 years, and then simultaneously then opening up the new location on 640 Prospect Avenue. And that location now has been going very strong, gets full to capacity, so we keep growing every month, every year.
Amazing. And I would assume that the Instagram has a lot to do with that.
Yes.
Your social media presence in general.
It's been growing more so because of that, and because we're living now deeper in this day and age of we're now eating through our social media, through our phones, through our devices, through our computers. And since my cousin and I, we took the initiative, the decision to take on the responsibility myself, thankfully to my tech background, I decided to invest heavily my time, almost full time, since this past November, into picking up photography skills, perfecting my Photoshop skills, learning about the ever-changing trends of social media and what works for positive exposure, organic exposure. And since then, within the last now, we're going on 7 months, 8 months, every single day we have people coming in showing, the waitresses and waiters and the managers their Instagram accounts, saying, I saw this on Facebook or Instagram, and saying, this is what I want to eat. What is it? I'm curious. And that is one of the most flattering comments when the waiters and waitresses tell me, when they see me coming in, to eat, which in my opinion, I have the most fun job when it comes to the restaurant. But they tell me, hey, Omar, we just had, 5 people, just within the hour last night, They said they wanted to try some baleadas and pupusas because they saw it on Instagram and they didn't know what that was, and they looked delicious to them.
So your wait staff is definitely grasping what's going on.
Yes.
With how the food is being presented.
Presented, so they know they also have to upkeep, that image as well.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps us all on check. It keeps us all in communication, and I push for that. I push, my cousin being the owner, the founder, and her business partner. I'm always pushing for that tight communication. Hey, there's 100, positive comments. There's maybe one neutral comment. Let's improve on this. Keep that consistency going, and so that keeps us tightly knitted.
Right.
Thankfully to the social media aspect, that's now allowing us to directly get closer to the consumer, the customer who wants to be satisfied.
So then you undoubtedly make social media part of the communication within the team.
Yes.
Right? When you guys talk about, let's say you have your meetings, whatnot, that is one of the things that you hit upon.
Most definitely. Definitely, yeah.
And so what is it that exactly motivates you to have such a consistently good feed? It might seem like a silly question because the motivation, of course, is to get customers in, but we've talked about this before. There's a lot of Instagram accounts out there that do not seem like they're active. They're just sort of out there.
Yeah,
what motivates you really to push it out there for you?
Because I do look at what other establishments are doing in the Bronx community, in New York City, throughout the country and throughout the world. They're either doing similar food to what we are or something totally different. I try to always put myself in the position, what would I like to do? What would I like to see? What would I like to eat?
Right.
What would I like to consume in terms of food and media?
Right.
So just constantly putting myself out there and taking myself out there instead of just thinking, oh, let me just get something done today.
Sure.
I want to keep the feed warm.
Right.
I want to make it feel like you're there, where at the same time you can also use these images or this feed as a form of digital menu at the same time.
Right.
And if you're ever willing to experience what's going on or what's happening in the moment, you can always pop into our stories as well.
Right.
Which I always do my best to interact directly with the consumer and feed off of their stories, kind of like download their stories into our feed as well.
Yeah.
So
you do an amazing job at that. I have to say, I think that you have one of the best, when it comes to the stories content on your Instagram page, I think you have one of the best ones. It's consistently updated. It's going all the time, and you do the repost for your customers, which of course allows them to feel more comfortable putting up their own social, tagging you guys and showing their followers that they're at Seis Vecinos.
Right.
I think that's an amazing, amazing thing. So I have to applaud you on that one.
No, thank you.
All right, guys. So grab yourselves a snack. Foodie Down Bronx. We'll be right back.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. And we are there as you start your next chapter. We are with you through life's journey. We are Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
Love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican, and I'm joined on set by Omar Canales of Seis Vecinos. So, Omar, we had started talking about your social media, and we started talking about your motivations, and you know, one of your or many of your goals is to, like you said, present Seis Vecinos with this beautiful digital menu, this clean, beautiful feed. How's the neighborhood reacting to the restaurant? What you have your regulars.
Yes.
I'm sure you have. What's the reception from the people who live in that neighborhood?
They welcome it, I would say, more all the time because we keep it interesting, and because we also keep it busy.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps that warm, welcoming vibe going.
Right.
And my cousin, with her efforts as well, and us always brainstorming, hey, let's try this, let's try that. We also changed, the ambiance, the decor. So we keep things like that changing. With also, especially with our upcoming outdoor seating, that's just one more addition that we'll be featuring, which will be a first for this part of the South Bronx.
That's awesome.
So it's just constant investments of not just capital, but also ideas. And hey, let's take another chance and try this and see if it works.
Right.
And that's really the way that we try our best to keep it fresh. We like to add, for example, new weekend specials that you won't see them on the actual menu, but you'll only see them on Instagram. Hey, we have, for example, a very traditional Honduran garifuna dish called machuca. You can only get that on the weekends. And that's just a tiny example.
I think that's great. You're giving people incentive to come to the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
By offering these certain dishes at a certain time.
Yes.
And not sort of having them on the menu all the time.
Correct.
Which I think is very, very cool. So I had started the show talking about breakfast, which is something that I feel like, there's nothing revelatory about breakfast. I mean, I think people know that you should have breakfast.
Totally.
But like I had mentioned, for me, it's like breakfast was not a consistent thing for me. And so when I started applying it to my diet, it really did change everything for me. What do you find are the most sort of popular breakfast items on your menu? Or what do people, even if it's not breakfast necessarily, but what do people go for when you guys open your door up at 11 or 12 in the afternoon? What is it that people go for?
Believe it or not, I'm going to start off with the baleadas again.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we have that right at the top of our breakfast menu.
Okay.
Baleadas and pupusas. It's just very traditional Central American, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
Because it's a quick bite, very hearty, very filling, and very inexpensive.
Right.
So we have the same variety going on throughout the whole day.
Okay.
But then we also do have our rendition of huevos rancheros, for example.
Right.
We have Mexican style, and we also have Central American, Honduran style.
Can you explain the difference between how they're prepared?
The difference being, the Central American as opposed to the more Mexican style would be more of like the soft shell, like tortilla, like whole beans. And while the Central American huevos rancheros would be a red sauce, 2 over easy eggs, laid over 2 hard shell tortillas with refried beans, crema, queso, and aguacate.
Right.
Avocado. So it's 2 variations somewhat similar, and just very filling, perfect, for the, in my opinion, hangover cure. For the early Sunday, if you can make it the early Sunday.
Which to me, it's like any food that can cure a hangover is my favorite food.
Oh yes, it's gold.
It's really good stuff. So going back to your social media page, which I really do love, what advice would you give other people when it comes to how to handle their pages?
What would you like to see? Ask yourself that question.
Right.
Take a look in the mirror, and when you look up an establishment, let's say even on Google, Maps or My Business, what do you want to see? What is it that makes you say, let's go there tonight, let's go there for lunch, let's try breakfast there,
right?
And explore and get lost in the flavor and the cuisine. So what entices you is what I try to apply to the whole formula of the imagery of what I present, whether it's on Google Maps, Google My Business, Facebook, Instagram, and all of our social media channels that we're also
And so
featured
you
on.
make sure to update your Google listings, your Google Images,
Yes.
Yelp, anything else that you feel is important. Facebook, of course,
Yes.
and Instagram.
Any medium where I feel like a customer could potentially connect to, even if we just get 5 customers a month that look at, let's say, our Foursquare page.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
still very important to
it's
have that.
still very important just to tap into that, because you just never know someone coming from way out of town wanting to come visit, which has happened. We've gotten comments, people visiting from Texas, Massachusetts, driving in from Virginia, just coming to check out Seis Vecinos because they said, "Oh, New York City has some."
That's amazing. So you've received people that far
Yes.
away that actually have seen your social, and then
They say, I'm
come over.
visiting New York City. I want to make that one of my destination stops.
That's amazing.
And it's just extremely flattering. Makes it all worthwhile the effort.
Right. So really quickly before we wrap up, do you think that content is more important than engaging with your audience? So do you believe a good picture is key to having an Instagram account that is popular, or do you feel that responding and reacting to your audience is more important, or do you feel like they're both equally important?
They're both very equally important. That they go hand in hand.
Right.
They're casamiento.
Right.
You know?
Yes, exactly.
In my opinion, the reason it's because you
nice
need
callback to that though. I like that.
Thanks. You need to keep it warm. You
Yeah.
need to keep it, like family. You need to keep it welcoming. So that's the only way you can do it.
Right.
And by the content that I provide, the pictures, overall from afar, they can maybe seem a little similar, but if you dig deep into every picture, you can see that they're taken at different times. They're all plates that somebody ate. These aren't dishes that were made just for a photo, They were made at the kitchen. They were moving very quickly. You've been in the kitchen.
Yes,
You've seen it happen
It's a
firsthand.
very active kitchen, it is.
So just keeping it very natural keeps the warmth going, the welcoming warmth that keeps, showing its effects, thankfully.
Again, I have to say, you have perhaps one of the best food accounts out there, not just in the Bronx, but on Instagram. I really do love it. You do an amazing job. And the reason I had asked you is because in reality, you just have a great balance of both. You have amazing content, amazing pictures, and you respond to your customers and your followers, which I think is key to having that inviting nature of the restaurant continue on a digital platform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because education is a big thing.
Yes.
Me coming from my IT and food, like labeling background, education is it's very effort intensive, very expensive if you want to invest into that. And educating people about the Bronx, the community, that you can find a little bit of Central America in the South Bronx and consider it your destination as something different to what else is ever being offered out there. That's the overall mission. So the education aspect is something I also truly believe in.
That's awesome.
That makes it fun.
I love that. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate it. Stay connected with Omar and Seis Vecinos on Instagram at Seis Vecinos, and visit them at 640 Prospect Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10455. Grab a snack. Foodie Down Bronx will be right back.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. My name is Harvey Lauer. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the way I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican. Our next guest is an award-winning fashion photographer who recently started shifting her focus to the food industry. She also joined me at last April's Foodie Down Bronx panel, and I say this without hesitation. Her food photography is out of this world.
Aw.
And I'm high-key jealous of her skills. Please welcome Nikki Gomez.
Aw, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez, for joining me here.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Pineda.
So the first question I have to ask you is the most obvious. Why would you all of a sudden turn your shift to the food industry?
Well, who doesn't love food? I mean, I love food, and as you know, I love to cook, and a lot of times I would photograph the food that I cook, and I'm like, oh, that looks really nice, and maybe I could do this, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick with what I know, and then, you know, running around with you to some of these restaurants, and your encouragement also just, you know, you encouraged me to just give it a try. And the more I did it, the more I loved it, and it almost felt like it came like second nature. So
it's a pretty good gig, right?
Yeah, it's super fun.
Running around,
eating,
taking
pretty pictures.
Yeah. How long were you a fashion photographer before you jumped over to the food scene?
About 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. So since around 2007.
Consistently or on and off?
I'd say like as a business where it's my sole income on and off, but I'd always done it. Even when I was doing other things, I still was shooting on the side and just trying to make it happen.
So which, do we know anybody you've shot? Any models or bloggers out there that are pretty big on Instagram?
I feel like I've shot everyone. So I know you can look at, a lot of people know Denise Bidot. I got to shoot Denise Bidot. Lorna Litz, she used to have a show called Curvy Girls. I got to shoot Lorna Litz. There's just, it's so many because I helped start careers as well. So I started some people out in the industry before they even got started in modeling. And then I've also shot a lot of established models. So in my mind, there's now hundreds.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were on a reality show yourself?
I was on TLC's Big Sexy.
Wow, when was that? When did that happen?
That was in 2011, which feels like a lifetime ago now. But yeah, it's 2011.
2011.
It was super fun.
So running around with me and eating all this great food, that's what basically made you go into the food scene. How do you find that versus fashion photography, and I don't mean just, you know, dealing with the people, but from an artistic standpoint,
Yeah.
what's the difference between fashion photography and food photography?
For
Besides, of course, the most obvious thing, which is you're shooting people and food, but there's more levels to photography than just pointing a camera and shooting something. So what do you find is the biggest difference between those two?
Well, first of all, I want to say each thing inspires the other and also inspires creativity in me to shoot the other. So, for instance, you know, shooting models for so long, and people in general, you know, I kind of got stuck in, and not, I wouldn't say a rut because it's always fun, it's always exciting, but creatively you want to keep challenging yourself.
Right.
So when I moved into food, it was a new creative challenge that ultimately also had me shoot people differently.
Right.
If that makes sense. So when I started shooting food, if you look at some of my work, I embrace shadows more with food and light. And when I was shooting people for a long time, it was just light, 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 light. And I wasn't embracing some of the shadows and the depth that I can get from shooting people.
Right.
And so now they've kind of merged artistically for me. And so I've embraced a little bit more of the shadows and the darkness. And then, you know, also with the light. Also editing wise, shooting food is a lot easier to edit than people, because people...
It's a bit quicker, right?
A lot quicker, yeah. Yeah, with people, you know, you have to think about skin, skin tone, all of that. And you want to make them look almost as flawless as they can, but also looking natural.
So you feel that food photography has also helped you with your fashion photography?
100%. Yeah, 100%. It still helps me. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are the places you like to shoot, or I guess your favorite places in the Bronx to eat at, which you've created content for? Like any, you know, restaurants or... Because you did have the cover of the last Edible Bronx issue that popped out.
Yes.
Where you shot at Suyo Gastrofusion.
Yeah, Suyo was great. I mean, the food there is amazing. The creativity and passion behind the people who do everything there, the drinks and the menu and everything, it's palpable. So shooting that was easy. Seis Vecinos offers a lot of colorful, beautiful food as well, and lends itself to some food porn, if I can say that, with the cheese and all of the yummy things that come out of pupusas. So yeah, those are some of my favorite places. Also, like some pizza places. You know, you got to think about like Louie and Ernie's. Has giant sausages on their pizza that looks
all the
amazing.
way over in Throgsneck.
In Throgsneck, yeah. So that's another place I loved, like capturing some of their food too.
Your aesthetic has a very editorial look. If you look at your feed at Food by the Nikki Gomez, it looks like everything belongs in a magazine.
Yeah.
You have a very clean aesthetic, very classy look. Are you opposed to food porn? Are you opposed to like that really crazy, you know, sharp, saturated, you know, cheesy look, or do you just sort of stay in your lane and sort of, you know, you go for what you go for?
I wouldn't say I'm opposed to food porn. I definitely can appreciate it. As you know, I love egg yolk porn.
Yes, you do.
That's pretty beautiful, and,
Yes,
and
you're
videos
obsessed
of
with it.
yolk spilling out of things it just gets me every time, deep in the heart. But as far as my photography, for some reason, naturally, I'm just drawn to a more editorial aesthetic. So I just follow that, since it just seems to be a natural expression of what I shoot.
Right. But that's I think that's is that a... I guess it's because of your fashion photography?
I think so. It might be. I mean, it might just be years and years of loving and appreciating magazines. Because I think a lot of my fashion eye comes from first modeling and knowing how things should look based on being a model and trying to create it on this side of things.
Right.
And then also from, you know, just growing up and looking at all the magazines, you know, Glamour, Vogue, all of those magazines, and it just kind of imprints in your mind. And I think the food photos in those, even with their ads, imprinted in my mind, and that kind of comes out when I shoot.
So when you're shooting for food, you would be more like Bon Appetit type stuff?
I feel like less Martha Stewart, nothing against that lifestyle thing, but less maybe Martha Stewart, more New York Times, cooking, Bon Appetit, Xavier type of vibe.
The whole like flat lay thing where you have the camera above the actual plate.
Sometimes I like being in the plate, you know,
plate.
but I also embrace, like I said, the shadows and the depth, so that way everything kind of pops out at you as opposed to everything just being whitewashed. Because sometimes if it's too much light for my taste, it looks very whitewashed.
Right, that's what you're saying.
But I like color and saturation.
Right, okay. So going back to, because you had mentioned Louie and Ernie's and Throgsneck, but we can't forget about the other location in Throgs Neck, Tommy's
Yes.
Pizza.
So good.
Which I kind of want to get you to shoot them because we haven't visited them yet.
Okay.
Since you've like embarked on your
That's true.
your food journey, so we have to make an effort to go shoot.
Oh, I already have pictures in my mind of exactly what I want to shoot. It just popped in.
We can't we can't do it until I'm out of this whole vegan thing.
Well.
But it's only one more month.
You
to go.
can't do it.
All right, fair enough. You can go visit them and you can go shoot them, and then you can tell me how it went. But I'd like to go with you.
Okay.
Because I do miss regular cheese pizza.
I know. Okay, so we'll save it for when you're done with your challenge.
Fair enough, but we'll do that. But when we come back after break, we'll talk a little bit more about some of your goals and some of the advice you might have for people when it comes to running their social media.
Okay.
I'd love to hear if you have any tips or tricks that people can take in for their social media.
Sounds good.
So, guys, grab yourself a snack. Foodie Down Bronx will be right back.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children. She didn't know what to do.
Did you have a good day at school?
She gave them some broth without any bread.
There you go.
And kissed them all soundly.
Night night.
Good night. And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, the Hungry Dominican, and I'm joined on set by fashion and food photographer Nikki Gomez. So, Nikki, I wanted to circle back to any advice that you might have for people that want to have an amazing Instagram account, whether it's fashion or food. What do you think are the most important things you need to have those accounts?
I mean, definitely beautiful content.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know there's something to be said for doing it on the whim and all that. That's fun. But if you're a model or aspiring model, you definitely want to put up good photos. In the industry, there's a saying, which is you're only as good as your worst photo. So try to put up your best photos and like invest in a good photographer if you're interested in that type of line of work. And also, you know, tag clients that you're interested in working with, hashtag. If you tag them, they most likely will see your picture, whether they respond or not. That's up to them, but at least you get their attention. So I think that's important. And
it's like a form of trolling, but it works.
Yeah, troll
right?
them a little bit.
Sure,
It's
of course.
okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
totally.
I think if you're promoting yourself and your business, that's a good thing to do.
Right.
And I would say for the food stuff, again, beautiful content, good lighting, natural light. I mean, I think that goes a long way, you know, when it comes to
when you do your food photography, do you shoot usually in natural light?
Yeah, 90% of the time.
Natural light.
Natural light. I think that, you know, food is best when it looks natural and like it is when you want to eat it.
Yeah.
So the less manipulation that you do to it, the better it looks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't, there are some pictures on my feed, especially I think earlier on, where I relied on a lot of artificial lighting, because I'd go to these dinners at night and the lighting in the restaurant wasn't that great, so I would have these artificial lights. But I don't take them anymore. I don't like them anymore. I feel like, yes, there's a benefit to using artificial lighting, which means that you could, depending on the plate you have, you could really pop up the colors on certain plates. But I do like natural lighting overall. I try to keep that aesthetic as much as I can. Even if it's a dimly lit restaurant, I'll try my best to maybe in post brighten it up a bit, make the colors pop. But I don't love artificial lighting.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, with your feed, it's like like you said, it's 90% natural light.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes you have to just fall back on.
Yeah, well, you and I have also like taken plates outside of the restaurant to get the natural light and then run back inside. You know, it's kind of the tricks of the trade that you need to do to have
it's part of the life.
Yeah.
You have to like, you know, be weird about it, and you have to like get up in the middle of a restaurant and then, you know, excuse me, we'll be right back with your cutlery.
Exactly.
We're just gonna go outside and take pictures in the middle of the street.
Yeah, don't mind us.
Don't judge us. Please don't judge us. So, going back to your fashion photography, you are running a special right now.
Yes.
You have actually you have 2 summer specials going on.
I do.
With your fashion photography. So speak a little bit on that.
Yeah. Well, first I want to celebrate being back in the Bronx. I think that, you know, the Bronx as a backdrop, especially for my fashion stuff, really gives it a whole texture and a flavor that you don't necessarily get in other locations in the city.
I agree. I really do love your Bronx photography. I think it's really awesome.
Thank you. A lot of my stuff I try to keep in the Bronx, and also it's always funny to see the model's expression when they tell them to come to the Bronx. They're like, what? And then they come like, this is the Bronx. Yes, this is the Bronx. There's a lot to the Bronx.
I've gotten the same response when I invite people over to the borough to have a dinner or lunch. A lot of people are, there's no exposure to the Bronx for them. So, you know, pulling them in here is a little bit tough, but once they're here, like your models, they love it.
Yeah, I've had people ask me about apartments after we do shoots because they want to stay. But yes, I have 2 summer promos going. One of them is a model boot camp, which is like an intensive. And the reason I decided to do this is because oftentimes during my shoots, I'm giving tips and I'm helping, and I work with a lot of new models, so I'm helping them learn about the industry and where they fit. And I find that maybe it's best to just focus on that for a class. So I'm giving a one-on-one intensive, 45 minutes of consultation. So questions that you have about the modeling industry and how to get started, I can help you. And then a 45-minute mini shoot where you actually go home with 5 edited shots to start your portfolio.
Awesome.
And I think that that's a good value to get them started. And then my other promotion is 20% off my packages of 2 looks and 4 looks. So if you have 2 outfit changes and then 4 outfit changes, and with the 4 looks you get professional makeup too by a celebrity makeup artist, so that's kind of awesome.
Awesome.
And you end up with a lot of photos for your portfolio as well.
And so that's at the Nikki Gomez. That's your fashion page.
Yes.
You can find more information on your
The
Instagram.
Nikki Gomez, yeah.
At the Nikki Gomez, not Food by the Nikki Gomez.
No, Food by the Nikki Gomez is the food stuff.
There's no specials yet.
Not yet. No.
For any of those. We did a big food festival recently where it was based in another borough, but a neighboring one, Queens. And you and I got to meet a lot of amazing chefs and restaurateurs and people in the food business. We even actually had some amazing food here in the Bronx too from some of the vendors who participated in that food fair that were Bronx based. How has your perception of the food industry changed since you took that job, since you experienced that whole campaign that we spent about 5 months.
Yeah, that was like a real good insider look as to what goes on when you're really just trying to do it on your own. Because these are vendors. A lot of them were vendors. While we did go to some restaurants, I'd say a majority of the ones we went to were just people doing it out of their homes, starting their own business, going to all these festivals and selling their food at the festivals. And so that was a real deep personal take on why they do what they do and the love that comes through their food. And that affected me emotionally because it's like, wow, these people are so passionate about bringing the food from their native countries to people here in New York and in Queens or whomever came from wherever just to try their food. And it was inspirational.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I was so excited to even take those photos and capture the food, which I will be uploading more of on Food by the Nikki Gomez. So you'll get to see some more of that as well.
Good. Yeah, I found it to be a really eye-opening experience, and I was happy because I had participated last year with the same food festival, and there weren't too many Bronx vendors. This year was a bit different. And we had actually met a lovely family who gave us this giant spread.
Are you talking about the Antiguan food?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Right across from, actually walking distance from here.
Yeah. Maybe we should pay them a visit.
I think we should. But I was really happy to see that because I feel like, you know, there's so much amazing food in the borough, but people, unless you are in the borough, I feel like you don't know about the selections that are available here. You know, and that's like something like, let's say, Brooklyn, where you don't even live in Brooklyn, but you know what's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think that has to change, and hopefully we're changing that by, you know, what you do with the Hungry Dominican and, you know, more people coming to the Bronx, taking pictures of the food and the offerings here and putting it up on Instagram and really tagging the Bronx. Let people know when they look up the Bronx, they're going to find delicious food here as well, you know, not just Brooklyn or Manhattan.
Yeah, no, I had mentioned it to Omar in the first segment. That's I've always wanted a platform where I could just talk to people from the borough, or even people that aren't from here, and just expose them to the artists here, the creatives, the chefs in this borough, and just, you know, open their eyes to what's available here.
Yeah.
So doing that with you was pretty intense. But like I said, I was really happy that there were more people from the Bronx participating because it even opened up my eyes. I mean, we bumped into a Trinidadian restaurant a few days ago.
Yeah.
We had doubles, where you had doubles for the first time.
That was amazing.
And it's you know, it's things like that I don't think a lot of people outside of the Bronx understand, that there's just a lot more than, you know, arroz con habichuela and all that stuff, and what people just assume is the signature dishes of you know, or maybe they just think it's Latin food or Latin American food, and that's all.
I think that's a lot of what people think.
And I think that's, you know, yes, it is that, but it's not only that.
Right.
And so I'm glad that you got that exposure, because when I first got the exposure, it really opened up my eyes to what's in here, which is like an amazing thing.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I'm happy that we did that. So before we sort of wrap up, I just need to know, what is your favorite Bronx restaurant?
Favorite Bronx restaurant?
You've mentioned a few, but I just need to know which is the spot that you just can't get enough of. Because I can tell you right now that besides Seis Vecinos, there's one that for me is pretty close by that I love.
What's that one?
188.
Oh my gosh,
Bakery Cuchifrito. It was the restaurant that was shown in Anthony Bourdain's episode.
Yeah.
Where he goes to the BX, he sits down to this amazing little Cuchifrito spot. I love that spot.
Yeah.
So what's yours?
Well, that place definitely has my heart. That reminds me of just growing up and the food that we had growing up. But since we had left for a while, left the borough, I was missing Louie and Ernie's. I really was. Okay. I was missing Bronx pizza. I was missing that sausage slice. So at the top of my mind, it's Louie and Ernie's.
Louie and Ernie's.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're making me miss it too.
I know, the pizza is just so good.
All right, just give me that month, and then we'll be back, and we'll start eating our cheese pizza.
You got
it. I want to thank you for being a part of my first episode.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it, of course.
Of course.
And we'll know where to find you on Instagram, the Nikki Gomez, and Food by the Nikki Gomez as well. And you're also on Facebook.
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at the Nikki Gomez as well.
Do you tweet often?
I don't tweet.
Are you a tweeter?
I'm not a tweeter. You tell me about the tweets, and I check out what you tell me.
I barely tweet either. It's okay. It's fine. Okay, well, you know what? We'll keep it at that. So find yourself on Instagram. Well, you can find yourself.
I can find myself on Instagram.
On Instagram and Facebook. Well, that's all for Foodie Down Bronx. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our guests today, Omar Canales and Nikki Gomez, for joining us. Tune in to Foodie Down Bronx every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. here on BronxNet Optimum 67 and FiOS 33. Also tune in on the go at bronxnet.org. From BronxNet to the world, I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican, wishing you all a happy and safe 4th of July. And remember to feed your mind, feed your body, and if you see me coming along, feed me. Adios. Let's feast, people. Come.